He tucked his 6 children into bed and then set the house on fire. I'm True Crime Caitlin, and this is the horrifying case of Mick Philpott. Before we get into today's case, if you like my videos and would like to hear them in a longer format, make sure to tune into my podcast, True Crime with Caitlin, available wherever you listen. Today's case takes place in Derby, Derbyshire, where Mick Philpott was born, and there is not enough words in the English language to describe just how much of an awful person this man was. When he was 19 years old, he had a 15-year-old girlfriend named Kim Hill, whom he was very abusive, controlling, and manipulative towards. He thought he could dictate every single part of Kim's life, and if she did something wrong, Mick would beat her. He would beat her so mercilessly that on one occasion he broke her nose and another her jaw. He snapped some of her fingers by pushing them all the way back. When Kim was wearing a dress that Mick considered to be too short, he fired a crossbow into her private areas. When Kim was given a literal baby too much attention and not enough attention on Mick, he attacked her with a hammer, striking her kneecaps, shattering them. Every time Kim tried to leave, Mick would do what abusers almost always do. He would grovel, he would apologise, he would say that he regretted everything that he'd done, he made promises that he was going to change, but all of that was false. In the end, he never changed. After enduring all of this for 2 years, when she was 17, Kim finally bravely left Mick. She sent him a letter saying that they were over, but Mick wasn't ready to let go of that control that he had over her. He would break into Kim's parents' house, arm himself with a knife, and then creeped up to Kim's bedroom where she was sleeping. As she lay on the bed in a deep sleep, she would be stabbed 27 times by Mick Philpott. Upon hearing her daughter's screams, her mother, Shirley, raced to Kim's bedroom where, while she was trying to defend her daughter, she would be stabbed by Mick a total of 11 times. Thankfully, both Kim and Shirley survived this attack. Mick Philpott would only serve around about 3-ish years for his convicted charge of their attempted murder, which is an abhorrently low sentence. Over the next few years following his release, Mick would get into a string of what he considered relationships, predominantly with girls much younger than him, teenagers. And he is in his 30s. He would abuse these girls, he would assault them and impregnate them. Between both of the girls, Mick would father 5 children. One of the girls that he got involved with, her name was Heather. He started getting involved with her when she was only 14 and he was 37. They would have 2 sons together, and Mick would encourage both of these boys to participate in beating and abusing their own mother. Apparently, this stemmed from the fact that Heather didn't give birth to a daughter. Mick really wanted a little girl. The thought that he was so desperate for a daughter when he is a literal predator absolutely makes me sick. Thankfully, both of these girls were able to survive Mick Philpott. At 45 years old, Mick would start dating 19-year-old married Duffy, a single teenage mother who was in a vulnerable position. She quickly moved in with Mick and would become pregnant by him. Shortly after her arrival and the beginning of their relationship, Mick moved another girl into the house. She was also his girlfriend. Just having one wasn't enough for him anymore. This was 16-year-old Lisa Willis, another single teenage mother who had no family. Another vulnerable young girl. Just as he did with Ma Reid, he got Lisa pregnant, and by the time she was 7 months along, Lisa was bridesmaid at Mick and Ma Reid's wedding. Despite those two being legally married, Mick would consider and refer to both Ma Reid and Lisa as his wives. The teens would continue to have child after child. Ma Reid would go on to have an additional 5 children, and Lisa another 4. In total, there were 3 adults and 11 children living in a small, cramped 3-bedroom house. Factoring in the children from his previous relationships and extramarital affairs, It's believed that Mick Philpott was the father to almost 20 children, but he didn't pay for them because he didn't work. Mick and his family heavily relied on the benefit system to help them get by, to survive, to put food on the table. Alongside this, he did not help whatsoever with the children and didn't lift a finger around the house. He was just there, an abusive, scary, looming presence. At some point, Mick got the idea that he was going to reach out to different broadcasters and telechannels because he wanted his very own TV show documenting his crazy life. He must have got inspiration from Keeping Up with the Kardashians or something. He was hoping that by doing this, broadcasting his life to the entire country, he would gather sympathy and he would get attention, that the council would give him a bigger and better house. But it backfired, especially after he went on the infamous Jeremy Kyle show in 2007, where he was dubbed Britain's biggest scrounger. Some years later, Lisa decided that she didn't want this life anymore, and so she decided to leave, essentially doing a midnight dash, taking her children with her. This absolutely infuriated Mick, as a man who believed he had complete and utter unwavering control over Lisa. So he decided he was going to hit her where it hurts, and he went to the courts to try and get custody of their children. But he needed something. He needed something extreme against Lisa to prove to the judge that she was an unfit parent and a dangerous person. And that is when he concocted his horrific plan. On the 11th of May 2012, Mick and Maureen Philpott, along with their friend Paul, were all inside of their home on Victory Road in Osmaston, Derby. The parents tucked each of their 6 children into bed, and once they were all sleeping, all of the adults went all around the house, dousing it in petrol, and then set it alight. Their idea was that Maureen was going to contact the fire brigade, and just as they were arriving, they would witness the heroic Mick bringing each of the children out of the house, saving them. But that isn't how it went. The fire completely tore through the house and Mick wasn't able to get inside. Upon their arrival, the firemen were able to extract 13-year-old Dwayne, who was fighting for his life, and rushed to the hospital. But 10-year-old Jade, 9-year-old John, 7-year-old Jack, 6-year-old Jesse and 5-year-old Jaden would all die in the fire. Dwayne would succumb to his injury in the hospital just days later, and as he was physically fighting to survive, fighting for his life, his father Mick was out in the hallway harassing the nurses. It was quickly concluded that this fire was no accident. Lisa was investigated, but she had a rock-solid alibi. It wasn't her. Detectives started to look at Mick and Mayreed sideways because of their strange behaviour, and so they decided to wire the hotel room, hoping that they would say something incriminating, which they did. The couple, along with Paul, spoke about what they had done, incriminating themselves. Maureen Philpott and Paul Mosley were convicted of manslaughter and each handed sentences of 17 years to serve. They both served half before being released, Paul dying just a couple of years ago. Mick Philpott was handed a sentence of life imprisonment with a minimum term of 15 years to serve, meaning he could be released next year.